Want to do some story time? All right. So if you followed any of the work that I've done at Third Shot Sports or Pickleball Coaching International, then you may know that I've been someone who has been pretty critical of the idea that you will always have to do one thing or always do another thing when it comes to pickleball strategy. And one of the ways that I've been most critical has been about teaching people to play pickleball, quote unquote, the right way, right? I don't think there is such a thing as the right way. I think there's some ways that are more effective against certain players and some ways that are less effective. There's some ways that are easier, some ways that are harder. Who knows? There's lots of different ways to play. And I think that this is especially important for coaches and anyone who's doing any kind of instruction to really keep in mind, especially when they're working with brand new players. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, you've got to play the right way. You have to play the third shot drop. Got to play the third shot drop. And to me, that's kind of crazy because a third shot drop, A, is really difficult to execute. And B, if you don't execute it well, you get punished. And C, I guess, even if you do execute it well, you've really just given a slow moving ball to your opponents, which is not particularly challenging. And very often a third shot drive can be a very effective shot. If your opponents at the net can't handle your speed, well, then you should drive away, right? Right, I think so. But there's a story that I always think about, something that happened to me when I was coaching pickleball years ago that really emphasizes to me the importance of pickleball instructors being more open-minded about the way to play pickleball. And I'm going to tell you about that right now. So I was out on the east coast of Canada. I don't remember exactly where I was, but I was coaching pickleball to a whole bunch of people, and they didn't know each other. And this was, I think, like a 3.0, maybe a 3.5 clinic. They didn't know each other. It was in this arena. Fine. It was great. We had a good time. And during this clinic, I don't even remember what the theme was, but during this clinic, we had talked about how you can use the third shot drive as an option. How even you can use a third shot lob if you wanted. I guess you could use a third shot drop. And so we had just sort of identified the different kind of options. And during this session, when we were standing around and I was talking about the decision-making process, about when to use a drop or when to use a drive, this one woman burst into tears. I wasn't expecting it either. And I looked around and everyone looked around and they looked at her and they looked at me and I looked at them and no one knew what was going on. And I thought, oh man, did I offend this woman somehow? Maybe there's something personal going on. I've been in that situation before where someone's got personal stuff going on in their own life and then it just kind of comes out while they're playing pickleball. And so I thought I had sort of like stepped into one of those situations. And so I asked her, I said, hey, are you okay? Did I say something? And she said, no. She just said, at the club where I play, all the people tell me that I have to play a third shot drop. And it's so hard because I hit the ball in the net and we lose, or I hit it too high and we lose, and I'm humiliated. And she said to me, Mark, I'm here to do this clinic with you because I felt like if I couldn't do a third shot drop, I'm just going to quit playing pickleball because it's not fun for me feeling humiliated and feeling embarrassed every time I go out and play because I have to do this third shot drop and I can't. And she said, but here you are telling me there's another option. I can just hit a third shot drive. And while she's sobbing with these great big tears, she came running over to me and then gave me a great big hug, right? And so to me, yeah, if we're talking about tactics, if we're talking about strategy, it's really important that coaches leave on the table as an option the third shot drive because it can actually be really effective. But I think that there's another sort of more humane reason why we as instructors need to be open to this idea of the third shot drive, especially when we're working with newer and starting players, is because it's so much easier to execute, generally speaking. Very often it's good enough, but it puts people in a position where we're not asking these newer players to do a really difficult thing, which is that third shot drop. Okay, so if you're a pickleball instructor out there, especially if you're teaching new players, let them hit that third shot drive. Don't tell them they're doing it wrong. Sure, maybe introduce the idea of why a third shot drop might be a useful alternative and how to make those decisions, but it should be on the table. Third shot drives are not bad. They're not the wrong way to play pickleball. They're a tool, and like any tool, there's good times to use them and bad times to use them.